What is up, guys? Rick Hackus here, going over my God Roll RPK-74 light machine gun in The Division. Now, I wanted to go over this weapon because this has been such a fantastic piece of loot for just so long. I've had this weapon in my build for quite a few days now. I've gotten hundreds of purple and even high-end rewards while I've been utilizing this weapon and found nothing to replace it. So that just shows how good this weapon is. Additionally, when I see people arguing over really good guns they found or the best gun types, I almost never see anyone bring up light machine guns, and rightfully so. The light machine guns per shot damage and usually their rate of fire are very low, and so their damage output is just nothing like something like an AUG or a Vector. However, I'm showing you today that if you get the right roll and pay attention to the right perks, you can turn your light machine gun into, like I have, a god gun. Now let's start off with the stats. The damage is still relatively low in the 5,000s, and again that's typical for light machine guns. My Vector's damage is almost 9,000. Rate of fire is 793, that's kicked up due to a magazine attachment from an original 650. Magazine has been kicked up to 79 and it's originally 45. We're going to be going over the attachments in just a sec, but I think even more important than that right now is the perks. There are two talents that spawned with my RPK. Accuracy, which just increases the accuracy by over 40%, and then, most importantly, Brutal. Headshot damage is increased by 20%, and that's all the time, constantly, with this weapon. Now, both of these talents require a frankly not too high investment in firearms. Now let's move on to the attachments I'm utilizing for this weapon. Firstly, a flash hider that improves accuracy even more and horizontal stability. That is going to be very important. Next, a Russian red dot sight that again increases accuracy, but it ups the headshot damage as well. It's basically a mini version of the two perks I have. And lastly, an extended magazine that increases both magazine size and, I think very importantly, rate of fire. You actually do want to increase the rate of fire. With this weapon, you're going to have more than enough rounds in your magazine to compensate. Now that's it for the perks and the attachments seen on this weapon. So, how does it behave and why do I think it's so amazing? Now I think a key element in this weapon's performance is the combination of the Brutal talent, which again increases headshot damage by 20%, and the fact that it's a light machine gun. Now, light machine guns act in a very specific way in The Division. When you shoot them, in fact, the sustained fire of a light machine gun will actually make it more accurate. Its reticle will actually tighten as you continue to shoot it. Now that is the exact opposite of the other gun types in the game. Assault rifles, submachine guns, marksman's rifles, when you shoot them, the reticles expand and make them more inaccurate and harder to land your shots. So what we have is the fact that this is a light machine gun, and upon shooting this gun with continued fire, you can get that reticle extremely accurate and then just place it over an enemy's head and get consistent headshots like no other weapon can. If you try to do this with an SMG at any sort of distance or an assault rifle, you will start missing as you continually shoot that opponent. So no other gun type can put consistent damage on an enemy's head like a light machine gun. And you take that factor and apply 20% more damage across the board with that Brutal perk, and the combination is something astounding. When I utilize this weapon, and it's most useful in challenge modes where you can actually just aim at an enemy's head and just dump damage from a very long ways away. The thing about SMGs, and everyone is super hyped up about SMGs in this game right now, trust me, I'm one of them. My Vector, and I'm actually using an AUG that might be better than my Vector, have just been phenomenal. They're performing so well, but when you're utilizing an SMG and when you're doing something like a challenge mode, you need to put distance between you and an enemy. You just can't be in SMG range all the time, especially when a wave of enemies is spawning. So having something like this RPK, where you can be just so far back, start shooting, put it on someone's head, and just see the damage numbers pop up and pop up and pop up, and you just aren't missing. The damage you're putting on enemies from very far ranges away is again just phenomenal. And the best part is that you're going to be putting forth all of this long-range damage while still maintaining fully automatic fire. A lot of other weapons like assault rifles, I reviewed the AK-47 and it was actually not bad at long range, but you had to tap fire it, otherwise it would just be too inaccurate. With this weapon, it's actually better, it's actually more accurate if you go fully automatic. So again, that's just going to help your overall damage output. Now I know a lot of you out there are living the high life with your Vectors, AUGs, and ACRs, but don't discount light machine guns. Keep your eye out for light machine guns like the RPK with that brutal perk, because you can just put forward so much accurate fire to an enemy's head because of the nature of light machine guns that increasing headshot damage by something up to 20% with that perk will drastically transform this gun's performance. Now, although the accuracy perk is nice, it isn't absolutely essential, especially because you can kind of tailor your attachments to increase accuracy instead. And in fact, the version that I'm using doesn't even have an underbarrel attachment. You can't even put a grip on my version. Now, I think that you may be able to get an RPK variant that does have room for this underbarrel. I might be wrong about that, but if you can, obviously keep an eye out for that. Additionally, I've been going on about how amazing this thing is at longer ranges. However, the downside of it is that because the reticle gets so accurate, it can be a little bit troubling to kind of track enemies in those very close ranges. So what I run is I'm running right now my RPK and my AUG submachine gun. Running a submachine gun backup is great because submachine guns are amazing in this game, and it does really help to switch to that submachine gun when enemies are getting in pretty close proximity. You can take them down with extremely high damaging submachine gun and go back to this weapon to deal with enemies at medium and longer ranges afterwards. And that's a combination I've been running when I do challenge modes. My RPK for the longer range engagements and a submachine gun, my AUG or my Vector on backup. I talked about this a little bit earlier in the video, but again, those challenge modes are just, they are tough and the enemies are doing so much damage. And so you want a weapon that can handle itself at longer ranges. You don't want to always have to put yourself in those closer medium ranges in order to let your gun do proper damage, and that's what happens if you rely too much on an SMG. Using something like this light machine gun setup will help you stay alive when doing those challenge modes. Now that's it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed and found this helpful. Now if you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating or sharing this video. If you enjoyed this content and want to see more Division content from me, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. Now, if you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter. That's linked in the description of this video, as is my Twitch channel, which you can also follow. Now, again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.